It felt like a cruel trick from the heavens. My sister and I had given birth on the same day, but the hospital made a mistake, a devastating one. Our daughters were swapped. We didn't find out the truth until they both turned 5, and then, once again, we exchanged them back. My brother-in-law, lucky man that he was, won 1 million yuan in the lottery. Their lives soared. A new apartment, a new car. His career took off like wildfire. And me? I poured every shred of energy into raising my biological daughter, Nina. So, she grew into a genius, a painter of rare talent, her name known in artistic circles. But it didn't matter, because one night she drove straight into me, in a car, on purpose. There was no sorrow, no hesitation, just pure hatred. "This is all your fault," she spat. "If you hadn't insisted on taking me back, why couldn't you let me stay with Aunt Lena? I could have lived like a second-gen heiress, born rich, pampered. Instead, I had to struggle, fight, work for everything. I hate it. I hate you." When I opened my eyes again, we had both come back to life. This time, she ran into Lena's arms, clung to her like her very soul depended on it. "I want to stay with Auntie," she said. "I want her to be my mom." I smiled faintly. So be it. A child like that. A snake I raised in my own home. I didn't need her anymore. Then I heard a voice. Software familiar. Shaking. "Mom, I want to go with you. I want to be your daughter. I don't want to live with Auntie anymore." It was Iris, the little girl I gave up when we found out the truth. And now, in this life, the first time I saw her again, she stood beside Lena, her small hand holding Lena's tightly, her voice full of quiet longing. Lena looked at me, her face full of guilt and hesitation. "Sis, I've raised Nina for 5 years. She's like my own. Can't we just leave things the way they are? Let's not switch them back again." I looked at Nina, clinging sweetly to Lena's side, acting like the perfect daughter. My eyes narrowed slightly. So it wasn't just me. She had come back to life too. In our previous life, we were careless. 2 mothers, 1 mistake, and we didn't realize we had each other's child until the girls were 5. Lena hesitated. She didn't want to change anything. But I insisted on getting my real daughter back, and I gave her everything I could, even though we were just an average working-class household. 10 years. 10 long, exhausting years. I nurtured Nina, protected her, pushed her forward. She made a name for herself, a talented artist. But in the end, she still hated me. Because my sister's family, the one she used to be part of, had more money. Because their home was brighter. Because their dinners were richer. Because they had 1 million yuan fall into their laps, and we had nothing. So she decided I was the reason her life was hard. That night, she crashed her car into me. If you hadn't taken me back, I'd still be Aunt Lena's daughter. I'd be living in that beautiful apartment, driving a better car. I wouldn't have to work so hard just to survive. It's all your fault, everything. Lena called my name, twice. I turned to Iris, her eyes quietly hopeful, her hands trembling. "Iris," I said softly, "do you still want to be my daughter?" She looked at me, then looked at Lena, and slowly, with deep aching certainty, she nodded. Her tiny hands clutched my sleeve tightly. That was enough. I turned to my sister. "All right, let's leave things as they are. If this is a mistake, then we'll just live with it. From this day forward, Iris Tong is my daughter." I glanced toward Nina. Her joy was obvious, barely concealed behind that perfect smile. But I could see it, the smug glint in her eyes. Raising a thankless child. Well, I wouldn't make that mistake again. Lena and I ended up moving into the same complex, same building, same floor. One evening, as I waited for the elevator, I ran into them, Lena and Nina. "Just coming back from tutoring?" Lena asked. Yeah, I nodded. Iris had her evening dance class. She smiled, then let out a soft sigh. I didn't expect you to be so devoted to her. She hasn't even started grade school, and you're already spending so much on extracurriculars. I said nothing. I simply looked over at Nina. She caught my gaze, and her smile wavered. A flicker of bitterness passed through her eyes. I turned away, voice calm. Iris is my daughter now. Of course I'll give her everything I can. A little money spent today will go a long way in her future. Lena's face twitched with discomfort. Your husband earns well, not like Kevin. He gambles every day. I have no choice. If I could afford it, I'd send Nina to learn something too. Nina's face changed slightly. She stepped in, cutting me off. I don't want to study, she said quickly. If I have to go to school, I won't have time to play. Fine, Lena sighed. No school then. Nina beamed, satisfied, clinging to Lena's hand as they stepped out of the elevator. But as soon as the doors closed, my smile disappeared. My voice turned cold. I had always been strict, especially when it came to school. Nina, she had never done well academically. She didn't like pressure, didn't like hard work, but I believed, I still do, that education is the only path out, the only path to a future worth something. I didn't want her to grow up full of regrets. Iris was different. Even as a child, she had talent, a natural grace. By the time she turned 4, I had already enrolled her in dance classes. Her teacher once told me, she's born to dance. But after we switched the girls back, that spark was lost. My sister Lena's family didn't have the means to nurture that gift, and over time, Iris's talent was buried, forgotten. In our previous life, every time Iris and I talked, I saw the regret in her eyes, and it killed me. Meanwhile, Nina, my biological daughter, received everything. The best classes, the best support. And yet, she threw it all away. She hated dancing, complained that it was hard, exhausting. She made a scene every time, so I let her try other things. Sports, music, languages. But none of it stuck until I found art. Drawing was the only thing she reluctantly accepted. If I hadn't started her early, if I hadn't trained her through talent programs, I doubt she would have qualified for anything but a trade school. But in the end, all my sacrifices, all my years of effort, none of it mattered. Not next to a lottery ticket worth 1 million yuan. Now, perhaps this is better. Lena isn't the kind of mother to obsess over a child's grades the way I do. She won't push. She won't press. With her, Nina can finally have what she's always wanted, an easy life. A second-gen heiress, pampered and carefree. 2 years later, it was time for the girls to start elementary school. Just like in our previous life, I enrolled Iris in the best school in the district, a school with excellent teachers, a place for real growth. After our families discussed the plan, Lena decided to grit her teeth and follow my lead. She agreed to send Nina to the same elite school, the experimental elementary. Back then, we made the same decision too. But only 2 months in, Nina had a meltdown. She didn't want to go to school anymore. It's too hard, she said. There's too much homework. The teachers are mean. I refused to let her transfer. For 6 years, Nina resented me. She never smiled at me again. She gave me nothing but cold stares and rebellion. She made every day a fight. Now, here we were again. Nina sat on the couch, watching TV. But the moment she heard the words, experimental elementary, her face turned pale. She ran to Lena in a panic. Mom, I don't want to go to that school. It costs so much money. You and Dad work so hard. I can just go to a normal school, really. Her words, so sweet, so well placed, finally broke Lena and her husband down. Iris stood quietly beside me. I pulled her gently into my arms. I said nothing, just watched Nina with a faint smile on my lips. The night she ran me over, our bond, whatever was left of it, was already gone. Now my daughter is Iris, and Iris alone. In our last life, after the switch, I had given my all to Nina, and she threw it away. But Iris, she never stopped trying. Her grades were solid. Her attitude better than I could ask for. Even when Lena struggled to pay for her tutoring, I stepped in. I couldn't bear to see her potential wasted, and I never told anyone. Later, when Lena's husband Kevin sank deep into gambling, Iris was forced to quit school halfway through high school. She went to work just to ease her mother's burden. Now, as I looked at her, still sweet, still soft, I gently stroked her hair. Iris, elementary school is important. You'll study hard, won't you? She buried her face in my chest and nodded. I will, Mom. By the end of the semester, both families took a trip back to our hometown for the new year. Nina had scored first place on her most recent test. And Lena, she wasted no time showing off to the neighbors, as if Nina had suddenly become the pride of the entire clan. In our little hometown, the elders couldn't stop praising Nina so. Such a bright girl, they'd say. She's going to grow up and make it to university. Mark my words. Of course, with 2 daughters in the same extended family and the same age, comparisons were inevitable. Iris Tong's grades weren't bad. In fact, she was among the top 5 in her class. But somehow, that still wasn't enough. Lena, my sister, didn't bother to hide her opinions. Talent matters most, she said bluntly. Nina may not be in an elite school, but look how well she's doing anyway. And just like that, Iris's efforts were swept aside. In the mouths of our relatives, her achievements meant nothing. I laughed, coldly, silently, because I remembered everything from our previous life. Nina's grades? Terrible, from day one. In elementary school, her performance was so bad, I had to take blood pressure medication just to get through tutoring sessions with her. Subject after subject, I dragged her forward with my own hands until she barely qualified for a decent high school. If it weren't for her talent in art, she wouldn't have made it to any university at all. Now she's reborn, carrying memories from her past life, and she's ranked first in class. Shouldn't that be the bare minimum? So much for that reincarnation cheat code. If she can't even top a classroom now, what's the point of remembering everything from before? And yet, seeing Iris quietly studying day and night, never joining the neighborhood kids to play, it broke my heart. In both lives, Iris had always been a diligent child. She had real aptitude, the kind that didn't need to be forced, and I couldn't let a twist of fate break her spirit. Iris, I said gently, kneeling by her side, it's okay you didn't come first this time. There are many exams in life, many chances to shine. 3rd place is still incredible, and you, sweet girl, you'll always be the best in my heart. She looked up, a quiet smile blooming across her face. I'll keep trying, Mom. I won't lose to Nina. That moment, that little smile, lifted the weight off my chest. 2 years passed. It was time for Iris to start her 2nd language, a stepping stone for her future. I started researching extra classes outside of school. I knew how important it was to build a strong foundation early. I wasn't going to settle for what the school offered. Iris was born to go further. Adding a 2nd language, that was just the beginning. When Lena saw how seriously I was preparing, she scoffed. Come on, sis. She's still in primary school. They're not applying for foreign universities yet. What's the point of dumping money into extra language classes? She leaned in. Look, I'm telling you, talent is what matters. No amount of tutoring can help if the kid doesn't have it. Just look at Nina. She's not in some fancy program, but she's still doing amazing. Even her teachers adore her. What's the point in all those classes? What Lena didn't know was that Nina wasn't even trying. She didn't do her homework, didn't pay attention in class, and yet every test she aced, effortlessly. Armed with a full memory from her past life, Nina didn't need to try. And still, she became a so-called genius in the eyes of every parent around us. Word spread. She's a genius. She's gifted. She's a natural leader. Soon, other parents began knocking on Lena's door, asking if Nina could tutor their kids. Lena, of course, basked in it all. She loved the admiration, the envy, and so she looked down on my efforts. After all, she believed in happy learning, never pushing too hard, never interfering. Study now, use it later, she said. But all this pressure, just for a second language, don't you think it's too much? I just smiled. Nina was skating through elementary school with her past life memories. Sure. But middle school and high school? That would be a different battlefield altogether. Let's see how far she can go when the difficulty spikes. As Lena turned to leave, she suddenly paused. Her expression tightened. Sis, now that Nina's become a prodigy, you won't regret it, will you? You won't try to take her back? I smiled. Don't worry, Lena. Iris is my daughter now, and always will be. As for Nina, she has nothing to do with me anymore. She's your daughter, and only yours. Lena lit up. Good. That's good. She walked away, visibly satisfied. I let out a cold laugh. As entrance exams approached, Nina continued to ride her perfect record. She was placed in the same elite middle school as Iris. Middle school meant more subjects, more homework. Iris studied late into the night. Every single night. I never had to push her. She worked on her own, quietly, diligently. And every time I saw her like that, a pang of regret would rise in my chest. Because I remembered. In our past life, when Nina hit middle school, the pressure mounted, and she broke. She hated studying. She was late to class, skipped school. By her second year, she was already secretly dating a boy from the next class. I gave up my job, just to stay home and manage her. And in return, she screamed at me, "Why are you always controlling me? I don't need a mother like you. Why couldn't Aunt Lena be my mom instead?" Back then, I thought it was just teenage anger. But from that moment on, her hatred festered. Maybe it's because Lena never disciplined her. Lena didn't believe in structure. After work, she'd run off to go shopping or hang out with friends. She barely had time to cook, let alone check homework. Half the time, she'd send Iris to eat at my place. And yet, Iris, raised in that chaos, still managed to shine. Her grades were no accident. She was born with brilliance. The first big test arrived, a full semester exam. Then came the first parent-teacher meeting. Coincidence? Maybe. Both girls were placed in the same class. And because they were cousins, the teacher had seated them together. When the score sheets were distributed, they were placed side by side on the desk. Lena rushed over, picked up one of the sheets without a second glance. "This one must be Nina's, right?" She grinned. "Top of the class. This has to be hers." The school no longer printed names, only ID numbers and ranks. But Lena saw the first place sheet and simply assumed it was Nina's. "Amazing. My Nina's still a genius," she said, holding the paper high. Every subject over 90, 2 perfect scores, just like back in elementary school. She wasn't even trying to keep her voice down. Other parents around us leaned in. "Wow, your daughter scored first. She's been this good since she was little?" "Not like my boy. He can't study to save his life." Lena's smile widened. She couldn't help it. "Oh yes, her name's Nina So. She's always been brilliant, never gave me a single problem. She doesn't even do homework. Teachers don't mind if she sleeps in class." The parents around her stared, open-mouthed, then erupted into praise. That's when Lena began preaching her parenting philosophy again. The same speech she gave in the neighborhood. "Kids should enjoy learning," she said. "Too much pressure only backfires. Take my sister, for example. She made her daughter attend all kinds of training programs since she was little. And look where it got her. Top 20, maybe." She glanced at me with a smug smile. "Iris is good, sure, but tutoring didn't make a difference, did it? Seems like a waste of money to me." But my sister, she just wouldn't listen. I bet she's spent a small fortune these past few years. And the worst part? The test results she was waving around. The one she called Nina's was Iris's. Lena glanced at the other score sheet, the one she had tossed aside. Her eyes narrowed. A hint of disdain curled on her lips. Around us, the compliments were still flowing. Whispers of genius and amazing child drifted through the air like feathers. I picked up the discarded score sheet, rank 26th. I set it down in front of Lena. "This one," I said calmly, "is Nina's." Lena blinked. "The one you're holding, that's Iris's." She froze, then snatched the top-ranking sheet with both hands, glaring at it. "No way," she muttered. "There's no way Nina did that poorly. This one has to be hers." "The ID number," I pointed out. "Iris's student number is 8. Look again." Lena stared. Her face began to stiffen. Sure enough, the top sheet had ID 8 printed on it. A woman nearby, full makeup, nose turned up like she was watching a soap opera, let out a muffled laugh. "Nina's mom, right? You don't even know your own daughter's student number. Some hands-off parenting that turned out to be a little too hands-off, huh?" Lena's face darkened like a storm cloud. She slapped the desk, stood up. "That's impossible," she snapped. "Nina's number is 8 factorial. It's lucky. I'd never forget it." Just then, the homeroom teacher, Ms. Lin, answered a call outside. Lena stormed out of her seat, marched right up to her. "Ms. Lin, check this score sheet for me, right now. Tell me, is this Nina's?" The room went dead silent. Parents turned to watch. The whispers changed tone. Who really scored first? Which kid was it? Even Ms. Lin looked surprised. "Please take your seat, Ms. So," she said gently. "The rankings are confidential. I'll go over everything after the meeting." But Lena wouldn't let up. She slammed her palm on the desk again. "No, just look. It only takes 2 seconds. There's no need to keep it a secret. My daughter always scores high." She glanced around the room, daring someone to challenge her. "Nina has never ranked outside the top 3 since 1st grade. There's no way she placed in the 20s. Check it, right, now." She turned to glare at the nearby parents, almost like she was preparing to gloat again. Ms. Lin sighed, clearly annoyed now. She pulled out the list, flipping straight to the relevant names. "Here it is," she said evenly. "ID number 8, that's Iris Tong. ID number 23, Nina. So." Silence. Then, a snort. A half-suppressed laugh from the back of the room. "No way," someone muttered. "Seriously?" Lena's face turned white. "That can't be. It has to be Nina. She's always been a genius, a prodigy." She grabbed the sheet out of Ms. Lin's hand. When she saw it with her own eyes, her knees nearly buckled. And then, the whispers began again. But this time, they were different. Lena fled. She didn't stay for the rest of the meeting, didn't even look back. After she left, the room turned toward me. A few parents offered smiles, polite congratulations. "Congratulations," one said softly. "Thank you," I nodded. Ms. Lin gave me a knowing look. "We've waited long enough," she said gently. "Shall we begin the meeting?" After the session, she pulled me aside. We spoke at length about Iris's progress, her potential, her consistency. I felt proud, and for once, seen. But as I stepped out of the elevator back home, I heard something. A voice, angry, raised, coming from upstairs. "What's wrong with you, Nina?" It was Lena, shouting. "You placed outside the top 20. What happened?" "You've always been in the top 3. You made me look like a fool." There was a pause, then a trembling sob from Nina. "You're not touching your phone tonight. Do your homework, now. If you don't get into the top 5 by next term, I'm not showing up to your parent-teacher meetings again. You hear me?" I shook my head and opened the door to my home. The moment it clicked shut behind me, the bedroom door swung open. Iris poked her head out, and when she saw me, she ran at me like a rocket. "Mom, you're back. she shouted. And guess what? I got first place again. I smiled and pulled her into my arms. Good girl. I brought home roast duck. Go wash your hands. We'll eat together. Later that evening, as we sat quietly over dinner, Iris hesitated for a long while before finally asking, Mum, earlier Aunt Lena was hitting Nina. If I don't do well on a test, will you hit me too? I almost laughed. Sweetheart, I said gently, you're my treasure. If you don't do well once, we try again. And again. You'll always be the best in my heart. How could I ever hurt you? Discipline was one thing, violence was another, and I knew where the line was drawn. After that night, Lena stopped gossiping in the neighborhood. When people asked how Nina had scored, she dodged the question or changed the topic. A few neighbors still came by, asking if Nina could help tutor their kids. Lena shut them down quickly. The excitement between our two families faded sharply. She started avoiding me. If we crossed paths, she'd offer a quick, stiff, "Hi, sis," and nothing more. I said nothing. I wasn't the type to kick someone when they were already down. Another semester flew by. The end-of-term exams came and went, and a few days later we had results. The parent-teacher meeting was scheduled soon after. This time Lena and I didn't sit together. As the score sheets were passed around, the woman from before, the one in full makeup, mother of that loud boy Wang, spoke up again. Nina's mom, your daughter must have come in first again, right? She's a genius after all. The room burst into stifled laughter. I glanced over. Lena's face was pale. She shot a glare at the woman, then looked down at the sheet in her hands. She swayed slightly. I'm sorry, she mumbled to the teacher. Something came up. I have to leave early. Without waiting for a response, she stood, turned, and rushed out of the room, hands covering her face. The moment the door shut, all eyes turned to me. Is Iris first again? Someone asked. Your daughter is incredible, smart and sweet. I'm so jealous. I simply smiled. After the meeting, I went home. But before I could unlock my door, I heard shouting from upstairs. What happened to you, Nina? Lena screamed. You ranked 30th. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. The sound of glass shattering followed. Iris ran to me frightened, begging to sleep in my room. I held her until she calmed down, tucked her in, and then I went upstairs. Just as I approached the door, the yelling stopped. Lena opened it, startled to see me. What are you doing here? She snapped. It's late, I said calmly. You should rest. Through the gap, I saw Nina kneeling on the floor. Her hair was a mess, her face blotched red with fresh handprints. Middle school is hard, I said quietly. It's normal for kids to struggle. Beating her won't help. In her last life, I never laid a hand on her. Not even when she completely spiraled. The worst I ever did was skip her dinner. But Lena, she was relentless. As I turned to leave, her voice sliced through the hallway like a blade. Admit it, she spat. You're here to laugh at me, aren't you? I paused. Now that Iris is first, and Nina's a mess, you finally get to gloat. You must feel proud. I turned back. I'm not here to gloat, I said. I just came to tell you. It's late. Stop yelling. Let her sleep. After that night, Lena stopped greeting me altogether. The other kids in the complex, who used to praise Nina, had all heard the story, the shouting at the parent-teacher meeting, the scolding, the punishments, and the scores. Nina's rank had dropped to 30th. She stopped paying attention in class, stopped turning in assignments, started skipping school. Once, she was the golden child, the perfect daughter everyone envied. Now, parents were pulling their kids away from her. Don't play with Nina anymore, they warned. She's not a good influence. Lately, I'd often wake in the middle of the night to the sound of Lena yelling, or worse, hitting Nina. It became too much. My husband and I decided it was time to leave. We moved to a different building, still in the same complex, but far enough to sleep in peace. After that, I hardly saw Lena and Nina, only once in passing. Lena had just come from school, clearly furious. Right there, in the middle of the street, she slapped Nina hard across the face. "How could your grades drop this low? I told you to study. Why won't you ever listen? Skipping class, ditching school, dating. Are you out of your mind?" Nina, eyes red, held her cheek and bit her lip. "I don't need you," she muttered. "You don't understand anything." She turned her head and stared toward a large villa across the street. "The Wangs live in a mansion," she whispered. "They have money, all the money in the world. Why bother with school? If I marry into that, I won't have to struggle for the next 30 years. Lena froze, and that was when Nina saw me. Her eyes locked with mine, full of something sharp, bitter, unmistakably angry. Then she turned and ran. Lena glanced my way. A flash of shame flickered across her face, and she turned away without a word. Dating. Already. 8th grade hadn't even finished, and Nina had already started falling for a boy. In our past life, she hadn't shown signs of this until after high school. This time, everything was accelerating, and her worldview, her values, were twisted. Back then, she'd fallen for a no-good boy. Reckless, lazy, manipulative. She wanted to quit school after middle school and run off to work with him. I was so furious, I ended up in the hospital. After I recovered, I tightened everything. Personally escorted her to school, cut off all contact. Only then did I pull her back from the edge. Now, I just sighed and kept walking. This life, if Nina chose to ruin herself, I wouldn't stop her. She was no longer my responsibility. I had only one daughter now, Iris. That night, a storm broke out in the parents' group chat. Lucas Wang's mother posted angrily, "Nina's mom, can you please control your daughter? She keeps showing up at our house. She's trying to get close to Lucas. My son has school to attend. Yours clearly doesn't care." And then, a photo. Nina, standing at the gate of the Wang family's mansion, leaning against the wall, staring inside, like a child waiting for someone who'd never come. Then came a video. Nina's voice, hoarse, shaking. "Lucas, can you come outside? I fought with my mum again. I have nowhere else to go. You're all I have left." The group chat exploded. This wasn't just early dating anymore. This was public humiliation, the kind of thing teachers usually handle in private. Now fully exposed. The accusations piled up. The noise wouldn't stop. Still, Lena didn't say a word. She didn't even show up in the chat. So Lucas's mother doubled down, called her out again and again. Eventually, it was Ms. Lin who stepped in to settle things down. But the damage was already done. Around midnight, I went downstairs to take out the trash. And there they were, Lena dragging Nina through the hallway, one hand clenched on her collar. Slap. Her voice was shaking with rage. "How did I raise a daughter like you? You're barely a teenager. You've disgraced me in front of the entire school." Nina didn't even cry anymore, just walked, silently, face down. "Starting today, you stay home. You're suspended anyway. If I catch you sneaking out again, I'll beat the rest of the shame out of you. And forget about pocket money. You don't deserve it." "Mum, what do you know?" Nina had shouted. "School is useless. Studying won't get me anywhere. No matter how hard I work, I'll never be as rich as them." She said it loud, clear, justifications spilling from her mouth. Until... smack. Lena struck her across the face. After that, Nina's voice shrank. Her eyes darkened. When Ms. Lin saw how she refused to listen in class, she did something no one expected. She suspended Nina, sent her home, told her to come back only after the term ended. And when the final exams came, Nina scored dead last. Even Lena gave up. The teachers were exhausted. Nina refused to study, ditched class, spent all her time with Lucas Wang. On the day of Iris's high school entrance exam, I saw them, Nina and Lucas's mother. Nina stood beside her like an obedient shadow, holding a milk tea. Her voice was soft, her posture almost submissive. But Mrs. Wang didn't even glance at her, not once. Even as she walked her son into the test center, she ignored Nina completely. I couldn't help but laugh. So this was it. Nina's grand dream, to marry rich, skip the decades of struggle, had brought her here. And yet, she treated this plan with more dedication than she ever gave school. After I dropped Iris off, I went to the milk tea shop nearby. Coincidentally, Mrs. Wang sat down beside me. "I envy you," she said, without looking up. "Your daughter, obedient, smart, never out of the top 3. Not like that one." Her voice tightened, bitterness etched into every syllable. "She's a disgrace. Honestly, how can 2 cousins be so different?" I said nothing. Later, I took Iris to the hospital for a checkup. Her cycles had been irregular, a condition that ran in the Jiang family. I didn't want it to affect her performance during exams, but I didn't expect to run into Nina there, at the hospital, alone. Iris spotted her first. "Nina, why are you here? Did you come by yourself?" Even though Lena and I barely spoke anymore, the girls hadn't grown apart completely. Nina's expression froze. She glanced at me, eyes flickering. Then a nurse called her name. She turned and left. Fast. Leaving behind 2 faint words on the form in her hand, abortion request. I clenched my fist, then let it go. Said nothing. It was her choice now. Whether for money or for carelessness, Nina had taken this road herself. That same month, the high school exam results came out. Iris passed, with top scores, got into one of the best high schools in the city. As for Nina, she didn't even come close. Families whose kids failed the exam took them to vocational schools, hoping they'd learn a trade, earn a living. In our past life, when Iris had passed, Lena had pinched every penny to help her continue. But this time, Lena gave up. Her husband, Kevin, was still a gambling addict. And Nina, still rebellious, still arrogant. So Lena tossed her into a hair salon. To learn a trade, to make money early. Nina didn't even complain. She agreed immediately. After all, she didn't want to go to school. Her dream was to marry rich, to skip the struggle, to leapfrog her way to a life she didn't earn. Of course, she wasn't exactly quiet about it. Every few days, she'd show up at Lucas's school, even without permission, even while he studied for finals. Half a year passed. One day, as I came downstairs, I saw her again. Hair dyed bright pink, short skirt, heavy makeup, flashy earrings. She didn't look like a student anymore. Didn't even look like the Nina I once knew. She saw me, gave a cold glance. Then, after a long pause, muttered, "Hi, Auntie." That was it. No warmth, no emotion. And I didn't say a word. Because she was no longer my daughter. She gave a faint nod, bags of takeout in hand, and disappeared into her apartment. Iris was in 10th grade now. In our last life, she had dropped out halfway through 11th. 3 years later, that was the same year Nina entered university. And that was when her father, Kevin, won the lottery, 1 million yuan. But this time, Iris didn't just pass her college entrance exam. She came first in the entire province. Top scorer, national attention, the pride of our city. Cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed. She stood on stage beside school officials and university deans. And through it all, I saw Lena, at the edge of the crowd. Eyes red, silent, watching. After so many years, it was the first time Lena approached me again. "Nina's been hard to handle," she murmured. "She's worse than before." She looked more worn now, more tired, the weight of everything finally showing in her eyes. But before I could respond, Iris's voice rang out across the microphone. I owe this to my teachers, to everyone who believed in me, but most of all, to my mom. She never gave up on me. She supported me, cared for me, encouraged me. Without her, I wouldn't be here today. The cameras turned. All eyes followed Iris's hand, pointing directly at me. Lena flinched. She turned, squeezed through the crowd, and walked away, the same way she had all those years ago. And then, just like before, it happened again. Kevin won the lottery. 1 million yuan. This time it was their family in the spotlight. Neighbors gasped, congratulated them, envied them. Lena rushed over, eyes glowing. 1 million, sis, she beamed. We're rich now. Doesn't matter how well the kids do anymore. We'll be living easy from now on. She laughed. Honestly, even college graduates struggle to find work these days. But 1 million? That's more than most people make in a lifetime. I nodded. Congratulations, I said quietly, then turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard her sneer. She's just jealous. I didn't turn around. But 1 million isn't 1 million. After taxes, they only kept around 800,000. And once Kevin paid off his gambling debts, they had just a little over 7. Sure, enough to buy a decent apartment in the city, enough to start over. But Kevin was never someone who knew when to stop. In our past life, that money vanished in less than 2 years. He believed if he could win once, he could win again. Lena couldn't stop him. She watched as he gambled, bought more tickets, spiraled all over again. And Nina? She didn't even know. She was away at school, assuming they'd moved to a better life. She thought they'd found peace. What she didn't know was that Kevin was now hiding from loan sharks. That Lena and Iris had fled back to the countryside. That everything they thought they had was gone. It ended one stormy night, when all the resentment, all the bitterness came crashing down. Later, I stood by the elevator when I saw Nina. She was smiling, giggling even, surrounded by whispers of her father's big win. I hesitated, then sent a message to Iris. I wasn't going to tell her, but something made me wonder, would she regret following me? Would she envy the girl who chose wealth? Her reply came quickly. Her voice was calm, steady. Mom, why would you even tell me that? What does their lottery win have to do with us? Don't worry, after I graduate, I'm going straight into research. I'll build a future for myself. And when I do, I'll take care of you, always. Because I'm your daughter. I didn't cry at first. Not when Iris left for school. Not when Lena turned away. Not when Nina fell. But when I heard Iris's voice promising me a future, a single tear slipped down my cheek. It was happening again, just like last time. Kevin, addicted again. By spring, he threw 200,000 yuan into lottery tickets. Lost it all. No one stopped him. Not Lena, not Nina. Because they weren't home. They were off vacationing, celebrating their so-called lucky streak. By the time they returned, their cards stopped working. Their bank account, empty. Lena dragged Kevin into the street, screaming, "Are you insane? You gambled it all away. What are we supposed to live on?" Kevin shouted back, "I did it for us. If I win again, we'll be set for life. You two went on holiday, like money didn't matter." By the time the neighbors pulled them apart, Lena's coat was torn. Her hair was wild. And Nina, she sat on the curb, covering her ears, sobbing uncontrollably. Why? Why is this happening again? Why me? Why us? When she finally looked up, her red-rimmed eyes met mine. She froze, then ran. A month later, the whole family vanished. Moved out quietly. Word spread fast, as always. In a neighborhood noodle shop, I overheard the whispers, "Nina's pregnant." She didn't get rid of it. She went to the Wangs, wants them to take responsibility. She showed up at the Wang family's estate. Big belly, big plan. If she gave birth to a son, she thought, she could marry in, secure a future, seal the deal. But Lucas's mother wasn't so easily swayed. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no. She said, "We'll see what the gender is." But fate has its way. And Nina wasn't ready to be a mother. All those years, all those abortions, all that recklessness. In the end, she lost the baby, and with it, her last ticket out. Mrs. Wang sent her packing, immediately started introducing Lucas to other girls. Nina tried to fight, but her body was too weak. Her emotions, too unstable. Lucas lost interest fast. I thought that would be the last I'd hear of her. A name passed between neighbors, like old gossip over tea. But I was wrong. One morning, soft spring rain, I came downstairs, umbrella in hand, and there she was, Nina, standing alone, at the foot of my building, pale, thin, hollow-eyed, like a paper doll that might crumple in the wind. "Mum," she said quietly. "Long time. No see." I stopped. Fingers tightened on my umbrella. My heart stayed still. Nina looked up at me, her voice trembling. "Mum, do you not want me anymore? I'm your daughter, your real daughter." I laughed, cold, sharp, final. "If you still think that word means something, you've learned nothing at all." "Nina, you were the one who made that choice," I said quietly. "Don't forget, my daughter is Iris, not you." Her eyes filled with tears, silent, heavy, regretful. But I felt nothing, because I remembered the cruelty from our past life, the bitterness, the betrayal. My face remained blank. "I have to go to work," I said. "You should leave." I turned, took a few steps, and then her voice came behind me. "Mom, you came back too, didn't you?" I stopped, turned slowly. This time I didn't hold back the edge in my voice. "Nina, don't ever show yourself to me again. You are no longer, and never will be, my daughter." She collapsed to the ground, sobbing. Maybe she finally regretted it. Maybe she finally saw how foolish it all had been. Living a second life and wasting it all. She had done nothing, given nothing, just waited for blessings she didn't earn. But none of it mattered anymore. Because from the moment I opened my eyes in this life, the bond between us was already gone. I never saw her again. Years passed. Iris finished her master's degree. Her professors, all of them, personally recommended her to the National Ballet Company. She had won awards, performed, competed, and quietly, steadily, built a name for herself. Online, people began to recognize her. She posted dance videos, clips of her rehearsals. Occasionally, celebrities reached out, wanting to collaborate. Eventually, she was even invited to appear on variety shows. Her backstory caught fire, and before long, she had fans, real ones. 2 years after graduation, Iris bought us a new home. My husband and I moved in. Less than 2 years later, I retired early, and from then on, life slowed down. I tended flowers, joined a plaza dance group, took short trips with Iris whenever her schedule allowed. We climbed mountains, stood at the edges of the sea, watched stars from desert dunes, and through every scene, every breath of air, I felt something I hadn't known in my first life. Peace. One spring afternoon, I lay under a sun umbrella, eyes closed. The breeze was soft. I thought Iris had gone to the market, but instead, she sat beside me. Thinking I was asleep, she spoke. Her voice, so gentle, it almost blended with the waves. "Mum, I don't know why I became your daughter in this life, but I've never, not once, regretted it. Back then, I used to envy Nina. Her grades were terrible, but you never gave up on her. You planned everything, cared so much. I remember thinking, why couldn't I be your real daughter? But now I'm just glad, because I am your daughter, and I love you. It was later, during one of her sleep talks, that I finally understood. Iris had come back too, just like me, just like Nina. But her rebirth had come later, during a difficult time in high school, alone in the nurse's office, stomach cramping, unable to stand. And then, she opened her eyes again. Still, none of that mattered anymore. What mattered was that this time, in this life, we chose each other. We earned what we had, and we cherished it. And life, the long, winding, beautiful life ahead, we would face it together.